Hey traders, this is Kevin Davey. What's been happening with algo trading this past week? Well, let's find out. So, I have a bunch of algos that I trade, and what I like to do is put some of them together into what I call a trend score or a trend index. And I calculate this for all the major market sectors. So let's take a look this past week what algos worked and what algos didn't work. So first, let's look at currencies. And you'll see that the short, medium, and long-term currency trends were all pretty high, meaning there was a lot of trending going on in currencies. And here's an example with the euro. And you can see it pretty much went straight up except for the last day. So the trend was really good in currencies this week. If you like what you see here, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. Next, let's look at the energies. The energies weren't quite as good. They were still pretty good as far as trendiness, but not as good as the currencies. And here's an example where we look at unleaded gas. And in the first couple days of the week with unleaded gas, it was headed down. And then the rest of the week, it kind of went up and continued its trend. So that's why there's a little bit of indecision with the energies this past week. For the grains, well, they look like they'd be good at trading countertrend this past week. And here's a good example with soybeans where there was a nice long-term uptrend and also a medium and a short-term uptrend, but this past week kind of moved counter to that, where the market kind of retraced a little bit. So this one you probably want to stay on the sidelines until the trend either resumes or it changes completely. If you do trade counter trend, make sure you use small stops, small profit targets, because you never know when the original trend is going to come back and resume. Next, we look at the meats. And the meats are again kind of in that no man's land of not quite trending, not quite counter trending. And here's an example with live cattle where you can see this past week there was a lot of back and forth and up and down. So this whole sector might be something to just stay away from until a good trend develops. Next we have the metals, and the metals were good at counter trend this week. And you can see this in a chart of gold where the last couple months gold had been moving down, but then this past week it all of a sudden went counter trend and kind of was going up. So when you see red, that means, hey, maybe it's better to go counter trend. Now, obviously, the trend can resume at any point in time, so you got to be careful with this. Next, we have interest rates. And this one's interesting because the medium and long term show a definite trend, but the short term shows that maybe it was better to do counter trend. And if we look at the 30-year bonds, we can see the trend was down but kind of up, and there was kind of a mixed emotion this week. So that one's also kind of a little iffy if you're going to be trading it, because not all the trends are agreeing at this point, or they're not also agreeing that there even is a trend. Next we have the softs, and the softs were pretty much classic case counter trend for a lot of markets. And here's a good example with coffee. So again, with counter trend, you got to watch out because the trend might resume, and sometimes when those trends resume, they really take off quickly. And then finally, our final market sector is stocks. And this one should be no surprise to anybody. The short, medium, and long-term trends are pretty well defined in stocks, and this past week that's what happened with the stock market kind of just inching up. And it's a very good trend market right now, or market sector, I should say. So obviously, you got to watch out for quick counter trend moves, but all things being equal, I like the trends to continue. And that's kind of how I approach some of the things with my algos. When there's trends, usually want to jump on trends. Counter trends, you could try going opposite, or you may want to just stay on the sidelines. Well, if you really like this video, please do one of three things. Give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, or leave a comment. I'm Kevin Davey, and thanks for watching.